episode of Pastors of Payne. We are a podcast. We are a radio show. We are all things to all people. Father Carey is not here again. And he would say the same thing about me from a couple weeks ago. I was on vacation. I was at a youth conference, all kinds of good stuff. So in the last couple weeks, we've had a number of visitors, a number of very special guests going back. We had Chris Petrin talking about the incarnation. We had Trevor Alley talking about his conversion story. Last week on the show, we had the new hospitality coordinator from St. Francis Xavier, Amanda Fiorazzo. That was wonderful and interesting. I hope you were challenged by it. Today, very special guest, very special, and that is Angela Vivar Romero has come to us. She's on our staff, but more importantly, has been around in and around Stillwater for life.
I've been here a long time.
A long time. Okay, Angela, give us a little background where you're from, how you got to working at St. Francis Xavier, and then we'll jump into kind of what you do all day. And you just have a fascinating life of faith and story to tell. Give us the rundown.
It's a long story.
we got time.
We have time? Okay,
we got time.
So I was born at Stillwater Medical Center on 6th Street. Yeah, so I'm a Stillwateran. My family actually is from Veracruz, Mexico, so it's a coastal state.
So where's in Mexico? Give us a geography-wise.
So like if you're looking at a map and then you like curve it like a cornucopia, like you actually draw a cornucopia with your hands, it's like on the East Coast, and it's the longest state in Mexico. And we have the tallest volcano, I think, in our hemisphere or in North America, something like that.
A little trivia.
Yeah. So Orizaba is the city that we're from. My parents are from. I was actually, like I said, I was born in Stillwater. Somehow my dad's side ended up in Wisconsin. And my
old Veracruz, Wisconsin connection.
Yes, the route up there. But my grandpa was a translator for the Bracero program, I believe, and so he taught himself English.
Wow.
And wanted to go to the U.S. So he ended up going there. Was plugged into the Mercruiser plant, so
sure.
Mercury Marine, and then I guess was transferred or wanted to transfer over to Stillwater. Dad came to Stillwater.
So there's actually a lot of, in Stillwater, there's a lot of Wisconsin, like our Deacon Paul Govek and lots of our other parishioners. Ed Ike, who just recently died, was in that whole Mercruiser
pipeline
world.
Yes.
Yeah, it's big.
So my dad was a part of that too. So he worked at Mercruiser, and he actually went down to Mexico for a few years, and he was like driving a bus or something. And I guess he saw my mom and was like, hey,
how's it going?
And he started like saving her a seat, and they met, and then they both came here at different times. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in Stillwater. And I graduated from Oklahoma State University.
Go Pokes.
And yeah, go Pokes for sure.
Right on.
And I have my master's from UCO. And yeah, I've just been really passionate, I guess, for the Hispanic community. I know as much as I don't know, I can't question it because I know that God has called me to it. And so education and working with the Hispanic Latino population has been a huge, huge part of my career.
Nice. So before you started working for the parish, you worked at OSU. Tell us about that. Your work there.
So I actually worked at Meridian Technology Center for 2 years before that. And then before that, I worked at OSU. And then before that, I worked in like the public school system. And so it's been a really interesting...
You worked in Tulsa a little bit.
Yeah. I worked in Tulsa doing a program for Hispanic students in high schools and just providing like new experiences for them. It was called Conexiones with the Community Service Council of Greater Tulsa at the time. And so that was awesome. I got to create a lot of cool, I guess, outings and opportunities. And so we take the kids to college campuses and to national leadership conferences and places I had actually never been myself. So I got an opportunity. I took them to Frontier City because I had never been.
Nice.
So I was like, we should take the kids to Frontier City. And our sponsors were like, what? But Zero Foundation stepped in and
love it.
And they provided that awesome experience. And so I realized at the time that I was helping kids get into college, but I wasn't teaching them how to stay in college. And that really stuck with me because my kids would go in, but they're first generation. And so I kind of started a formula in my mind of like, I should have done this, I should have done that. But they actually ended up doing well in life. It just took them a little bit. But that led me to OSU. Before that, I did teach Spanish for a while, so in the schools a lot. But where I really felt called was at Oklahoma State University. I worked for the Division of Institutional Diversity, and my whole job was retention. And so retaining actually some of the same kids that I had sent to college ended up being my students at OSU. And I taught them how to stay in school and how to graduate. And I think that was sort of redemption from having thought that I had failed a bunch of kids, but I know I didn't. We still have a very close relationship and they're doing well. But anyway, that led to a lot of retention work at OSU through ID. And then they were like, hey, Angela, you're really good at this. How about you do it for the whole university? And I was like, oh.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. But, I was actually very bold. And I was like, yeah, I can totally do it. I was actually, I think, like overconfident. And so
confidence is good, but humility is good too.
Yeah, exactly. And so I ended up working at the Office of First Year Success, overseeing student engagement for our freshman students at OSU. And that was super rewarding too. Created a really cool scholarship program there. And from there, so that the journey, right, to working. So from there, actually, part of my story is the fact that my dad got cancer throughout that whole last part at OSU. And there was just a moment where, two different reasons, but one reason I'll share is that my dad was so sick that he needed someone to take care of him full time.
Yep.
And so I quit my job right when I was kind of on a high note.
Family first.
Family first. And I knew God was going to take care of me. I knew that God was calling me to take care of my dad. So yeah, I took care of him. After he passed, I took some time off, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should go back to work.
I got to get back in the mix. I got to support myself.
Exactly. And so actually a parishioner called me one day, and she said, I keep hearing your name, and I think you're supposed to come work at Meridian because we're looking for somebody, and you keep coming to mind. And so I'm really grateful to her for calling me that day.
Got you back in the workforce.
And she got me back in the workforce. Yep. And so I was there for a couple of years, and after that, after those couple of years, I was still scheduled to go back to Meridian, but something in me was like, and it was a great place, but it was like, it's time for a change. And I knew I needed to transition. And interestingly enough, a position came open at the church, which I didn't know was going to come open, but I was like, God, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready for whatever you want me to do next. And I was suffering a lot because I felt called to something. I just didn't know what the heck it was.
Sure.
And I remember one morning being so just, my heart was so low because I was like, where do I go? And so I end up telling God one morning, I'm in front of this family Bible, and I just say, God, if you want me to work at the church, you've got to let me know. Like, I will do it. And you texted me and you said,
ta-da!
You said, we're looking for someone to work at the church. And I was like, oh, me. And so I remember that evening also, there was a confirmation with a friend that was basically, I told her, oh no, the day before I said, Cindy, she said, do you want to come work in Washington, D.C.? Because we might have something at our organization. I'd always wanted to work there. And I was like, maybe I'll think about it. And I said, Cindy, if my church had an opening, I would probably rather work there. And that was the day before you texted me. Exactly. So everything was leading up to this.
I don't think I've ever heard this whole story. Dang.
I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to influence your decision.
Yeah.
So, but it's, another funny story. I was sitting in the nave, and you know how I was praying like a lot leading up to working at the church?
Sure.
I would show up like 2 hours a day sometimes.
And you're a regular mass goer.
Yeah. So I was sitting there, and I remember watching staff walk by with like their keys, and something in me was like, those are your keys.
I want keys.
And I was like, those are my keys.
And now you have keys.
And now I have keys to the church. So that's how I got there.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, and even from like being hired to now, like the job has changed, and really because, and I think what a lot of people don't understand and don't see is we have a large and growing Hispanic community in and around Stillwater. So not just Stillwater, there's Spanish speakers in Perkins and Glencoe, and basically where there are people in the United States, there are very likely Spanish speakers in and around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
We've grown tremendously. Like from the time that I was a little kid, like I said, I'm from Stillwater. We had a very small population. I remember being one of the first families, not the first, but one of the first families around the area, and we would walk around Walmart. My dad would drop us off there, me, my mom, and my brother, and we'd, kind of read books or just There was nothing to do. And we'd see a Hispanic family like speaking Spanish, and it was like, I know. Hey, you, like, are you Mexican? No, but really, like, we just would go up to them, and it was really amazing to finally have someone that looked like you and spoke like you and was even Catholic like you. And so we built small relationships. And at the time, we had Mass at St. John's once a month. And we would have a potluck. Some sisters from Tulsa would come, and we're a small community. And the community tended to be from like Venezuela or Central America and Mexico students. So doctoral students, master's students coming to OSU. And then we had a population surge, I would say, probably in about after 2000. And that's when a lot of our hardworking families came in who just do a lot in the community in terms of working with their hands. So now we have like this combination of people from like the university and also just hardworking people.
Love it.
Yeah.
What would you say, like how many, I know there's not a number, kind of a census number, but like how many Hispanics are in the Stillwater area?
I only find out during the quinceañeras.
Yeah.
I would, Father, I don't know, maybe 2,000 or something.
I mean, it's several. It has to be several thousand.
Yes.
And I think that might be a surprise for some people. Who maybe have interaction with a Hispanic family in their neighborhood, at school, through OSU, at a local restaurant, or they see kind of. But it's more than you think.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, even you count OSU, and from the time I left, there was about 1,500 students. So that's just a student population of 1,500 Hispanic Latino students. You take the people who actually live in town and around town, and you add some thousands to that. And I know it doesn't seem like that, but they're here in our parish.
Perkins. I mean, Perkins, that,
So mass goers, we have a good, the other day somebody said, what do you have, like 80 people show up? And I said, just wait. And so mass started, and I counted about 200 people that day. And so they do come. They come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were working at OSU, you mentioned kind of there was issues with, kind of a Hispanic student would come to college, but have difficulty kind of getting through.
Yes.
Talk us through that. What were those like? What are, for a first generation college student? What are those barriers? Somebody might think like, well, just do your homework and do your homework, go to class, and graduate.
Yeah.
What are those barriers that people might not be aware of?
Yeah. So there is a mentality of like, get it together, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I get it, but when you work with kids and you actually see it one-on-one, you see that there is a struggle and a difference between maybe a student who has never had any family attend college. Like there is nothing to go off of. How can I speak about this in a way that I can share? There are awards that are available everywhere. There are scholarships available. There are awards in different universities that are available. And if you happen to sit on the other seat and you're a judge, which I was blessed enough to gain that skill set through OSU and to be able to judge and be on a lot of committees for different awards and really well-known ones. And so it tended to be sometimes that if you just didn't know how to write the application, you didn't win, but you could have been just as qualified. You just didn't know how to form it.
There's a system.
Yeah. There is literally a file folder, I would say, and it's electronic maybe now, but there's actual papers that get passed down from generations that have won these awards before and that have been to college, and parents have been to college down. And we had we worked with first gen kids. We had the kids who were like, why am I not winning? I do just as much. And then I
have a good resume.
Wonderful resume. Presidents of organizations, everything. And then
presentation
exactly
wasn't there.
How do you put it? How do you phrase that? How do you write that essay in the correct way? How do you even know that you're supposed to list that you are president first? You don't wait on that. You don't put that at the bottom. You put president first. You put VP next. You put Mr. or Miss Crown next. You don't put it somewhere, and that makes all the difference. And so the way that the system kind of works is that whenever you do not have a background in these areas, you don't know how to do it, you're not going to get access. Access is a huge thing. And so we teach our kids how to gain access into these areas, and then they end up being on a level playing field finally, and they start winning awards. And it's not because...
Yeah, they can compete.
Oh my God, our kids can compete.
For sure.
Not only that, but you talk about hardworking people. I mean, these kids have parents who literally work construction 12, 15 hours a day in the blazing sun. They're taught how to work hard. And so they transfer that into their academics and into their leadership. And you have a whole breed. You have a new breed of a kid where you're like, dang, you are impressive.
They got it going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have kids now who made it to Washington, D.C., who are working on the Hill, who are doing all kinds of stuff, and who are abroad because somebody just said, I think you can do this, and let's just teach you how. And they got there. So.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think about it in my own life, just kind of, we talk about sort of like privilege, and like I have two parents who both went to college. I have 4 older brothers and sisters who all went to college. And so when it became my time to go to college, like, well, of course, number one, of course I'm going to college because that's what we do. And 2, like, how do you apply? Well, I had 2 parents who did it, aunts and uncles who did it, cousins who did it, and like my own brothers and sisters who did it. And so I had this kind of model pattern of life. Oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Where, put yourself in the kind of that shoes of you're 18 years old, you're a senior in college, and nobody has been to college or graduated from college. Where would you learn that? Anyway, that sounds like that's where you came in to kind of bridge that.
Well, that's because that's what I did. Like I remember being at OSU, and I don't think I stepped into the library until, honestly, maybe my freshman year. I remember walking in twice, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to order food because we ate. There's a saying in Spanish, it's a joke, hay frijoles en la casa, like there's beans at the house.
At the house, yeah.
And so we're not going to go to some restaurant and, order food when there's food in the house. And so I remember trying to order at OSU, and I don't think I used my meal card the first year hardly at all because I was too embarrassed. But, I found out there was kids around me who were like, God, I don't know. I remember we were trying to use the dishwasher one night, and none of us, our moms had dishwashers. And so we all looking into this dishwasher, and we're like, I could almost see a camera looking up at us. And we're like, how do you use it? And like, I don't know. So we just ended up washing them by hand. But eventually we did learn. We really liked it. Yeah.
What would you say, so we have at the parish, we have 4 weekend masses. We have 3 in English, and then we have a Spanish mass at 1:00. And there are people. There's kids, there's teenagers, there's young adults, there's older people, moms and dads, and the idea that I think in some parishes they're kind of struggling with that. Gosh, there are Spanish speakers. Should we start a Spanish mass? You said it got started here in Stillwater, 30 years ago. We don't have an exact date. There was a once a month Spanish mass, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and now we have not only Spanish mass every Sunday, which we've had for, I don't know, probably 20 years that there's been, maybe more. And then now we just started our new mass schedule. We have a Wednesday night mass, 6:00 in Spanish. So that's new and improved. Why a Spanish mass? Why have one at all? I mean, there's this, I think you hear that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Why this is America. This is what's the argument for a Spanish? I mean, I have one. I want to hear yours, and then I'll jump in.
Oh, Father, you asked.
Because I love that we have a Spanish mass.
Yeah.
We have priests that speak Spanish. We can all speak our Spanish better. We're working on it. We're getting better and better as we go. But why have a Spanish mass at all?
Oh, well, you know what? We can get into like political stuff. We can get into things that are divisive. And I might get into a little bit of that. But the first thing I'm going to say is...
That could be another show.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother show in itself. The first thing I'm going to say is that we are called to love each other, and we are called to be an imitation of Christ. And so if your biggest concern is like not giving access to somebody because you think they should speak the language, I think that we need to re-examine our relationship with Christ, honestly, and where we are in our journey. And I know I have a ways to go, but whenever it comes to giving access to giving people access to the sacraments, I think that attendance would be a lot lower if there was no Spanish Mass. I think that the future of the Catholic Church here in the United States is primarily Latino in many places. And so if you are denying people the sacraments because of a language barrier or trying to force them into a box that they just don't fit in, I think that's really something to examine in ourselves. And
that's not something for clarity's sake. I don't hear that a lot. You might hear that. I mean, I
hear it sometimes.
You get yeah. There's little comments sort of here and there.
Yeah.
I think in Stillwater at our parish, I think it's a well-known fact that we're a two-language parish. Now, are we primarily English speaking? Yes. When you call the parish office, the person answering the phone, will answer it in English, our website, or but now you're seeing, our bulletin, or a lot. And this is Angela's responsible for a lot of this. We're putting out more things in both languages with the goal of reaching more people for Christ and His church. I mean, that's the goal.
And I see that in our people. That I see that in our community is that I don't see a reluctance, to accepting our Spanish speakers, which is absolutely beautiful. And that just speaks to the heart of the fact that we are each called to be missionaries. And if there is a way that we can help bring the gospel to people who are not like us, I mean, gosh, what else? That's hitting the nail on the head, I think, in terms of what we are called to do. So I see good things in our community. I hope it stays that way.
Yeah. And we're building. I mean, I think we're getting better year over year.
Mm-hmm.
I've certainly learned a lot I've been here 4.5 years now. My Spanish has improved, and just kind of, I feel way more comfortable, like just having like a conversation in Spanish, not having to sort of go on a script or, and I'm so grateful to our Spanish speakers, for their patience, their love, their, kind of accepting me as their pastor, and so trying to kind of reciprocate that with efforts and trying to make things more accessible. I've always heard that people kind of pray, whatever your original language, you pray and you count. So if you're a native French speaker or whatever your language, and I say count to 10, you're gonna go whatever. I don't know, but you're gonna go to whatever whatever kind of you started with.
Yeah.
And prayer is the same way. However you learn to pray.
Yeah.
And so to give people the ability to be able to come and to pray in Spanish is really beautiful. I would encourage people, anyone listening, if you've never been to the Spanish Mass, like pick a Sunday and come.
Please come.
It's cool. I mean, the music is a little different. Obviously, the language is there, but then we also have we do this in English too. If a Spanish speaker came to an English Mass, they have the creed in Spanish, the Gloria, the creed in English. So you have you'll have like a worship aid to kind of help you along. And then we have little booklets and stuff that will help people kind of pray. But anyway, I love it. I love that we have it. I love that we're able to offer more and more things. Okay, tell us about like stuff that we do in Spanish. We just had like our Spanish parish mission. I actually got a very nice little thank you letter from Father Mauricio who came.
Good.
And then anyway, tell us about like what we do specifically in Spanish, which is things that are coming out of your office.
Yeah, definitely. So the Spanish Parish Mission is our 3-day mission that we try to have every summer. And like you said, Padre Mauricio from Arkansas came and visited us this year. And usually there will be a theme, and this theme was living water. And
it was so good.
It was so good. It was John 7:37, and at first I thought it was John 37. And I was like, I don't think that's in the Bible.
It only goes up to
so
22, I think.
I was confused at first, but anyway, so we did that. I know throughout the year, some of the things that we've done is we did a series of talks in February that called mini charla. So a charla is basically a talk,
a little chit chat.
Yeah, and I would recommend this to any parish, anybody listening out there. So people are tired afternoon. They didn't get to eat before Mass. So our Spanish Mass is at 1 p.m. So you have people who have not had lunch. And immediately after Mass, the tradition tends to be, I'm going to go get something to eat with my family. And so what we did is we said, hey, we promise this talk will not be more than 35 to 40 minutes of your time. And there's food. And so we found a way to like serve food super fast, and we would like lure people in with food. But I know they were there for the word of God.
That's what we were talking about last week with the man. There's food is a way to people's hearts.
Exactly. And so that really, I think, helped. And so one of our parishioners, Dr. Hugo Ferrer, he did mini talks on the saints or just whatever topics he did. And it ended up being really good. Literally.
It was so cool. He sang and brought his guitar. It was great.
All in like 35 to 40 minutes. Yeah. And so this happened. And we actually had the sisters from Tulsa visiting us too. And so they would do a monthly catechism class, and that was well attended, and people really started growing in their faith with that. And what else? So the Charismatic Renewal Group from Tulsa also visits us from time to time, and they do some learning with us, and we love it. We
kind of a Bible, walk through the scriptures.
Because we do have some charismatic members of the parish, and they really enjoy
love the Holy
Spirit worship and the Holy Spirit speaking in tongues, and so it is super cool.
And then we like recently we had vacation Bible school.
Yes.
And so what happens is you have, we had 100 plus kids from all over the parish. And you have, these kids all generally kind of go to school together. We have homeschool kids, and we have kids in different school districts around the area. But you have this beautiful, some of our kids speak English at home. Some of our kids speak Spanish at home. Some of them go to, the one of the 3 English masses. Some of them go to the Spanish mass. And here you got all these kids together, and moms at the drop off.
Yeah.
Just the cool. I think within our kids, that's an opportunity for some of that kind of cultural overlap where kids can kind of, meet each other and learn from each other. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it's beautiful to see that they just see each other as kids, and they're all sitting together, and they do-si-do together.
They know, they know each other. Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West was the theme.
Yeah.
It was cool. And I actually was wondering if I should do it or not, but I was really glad that I did it, because I got to meet our mini parishioners even more closely. And so that seemed pretty important.
I love that.
Yeah.
So where do you see this going? I mean, kind of you work at the parish, and then you also do a lot of speaking around the country.
I do.
I mean, just recently you were in Idaho, you were down in Brownsville. You've just been. I mean, that's just in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Parish wise, what's next for us? Where do you see us going with Hispanic ministry? What are we? I mean, we're reaching a lot of people, but there's also a lot of people that we're not reaching.
So where I see us going is I hope that, so interestingly enough, tonight we have our quinceañera class. And so we're starting this new quinceañera formation program where our girls are going to learn about who they are in Christ.
So quinceañera, give us that. What is that for people who maybe have not heard of it?
Sweet 16, but in Latin America. And it's like a huge party.
For when you turn 15.
For when you turn 15.
Quince is 15.
Quince, yeah. And the biggest part of this is that the girl would learn how to be a confident young woman who is confident in Christ more than anything. And that's the goal that we are aiming for. Yep. And so if you know of any girls who are going to turn 15, we hope that they would come to these classes. Yeah.
Send them our way.
Absolutely. So that's part of our future. More weddings are coming in to play, more people needing confirmation.
Adult
confirmation. So there is a demand for sacraments. And I do ask for prayers from our parishioners and anybody that's listening, because I was telling Father O'Brien, I think that I just need to spend some time in the nave and in prayer, figuring that out, letting God speak, because I do believe that He wants us to make disciples of our people. Of everybody. And that's what I got in prayer one time. And I know that I need to spend more time with that. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And the challenge, I mean, I'll speak personally, the challenge is doing that. I'm a very confident English speaker, I can get up and preach. I can, if you said, give a talk right now about the saints for 1 hour in English, I'd be like, yeah, totally. And if you said, okay, give a talk in Spanish about the saints for 1 hour, I'd be like, I would need, a massive time to prepare, and it wouldn't come off as, as naturally. And so there is there's a barrier there. I mean, obviously culturally, that's not how I grew up. I grew up, kind of in the suburbs of Houston. But there's a language barrier, and I think that's a, that I'm here, Father Healy's here, Deacon Tom Cameen, all of us, we all speak Spanish, Deacon Paul Govek, but kind of culturally there's a disconnect, and language-wise I just can't do in Spanish what I'm able to do in English, and I've all this regret and why didn't I study more, but we just got to do it. We just do it. We just enter into kind of the messiness of it and do the best we can with what we got, and let God do the rest.
Absolutely. Let God do the rest.
That's right.
That's
awesome.
What we can do. Yep.
Okay, Angela, we're out of time. Thank you
for
joining us.
Father.
We'll have you back. And we'll get into some some politics and language, and there's some good discussions to be had there.
Definitely.
Everyone, thanks for listening. Father Carey will be back next week. We'll be in the studio. Thanks, Don, our producer. Thanks to Stillwater Radio. We love you. Have a great week, everybody. God bless.